Welcome to the Unmet Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unmet Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 196. Building confidence means owning unmet needs. Welcome back to our month, which has been all about one of my favorite topics, personal responsibility. Last week, we talked all about how owning our feelings is huge when it comes to being confident and I think emotionally safe to be around. Well, today I want to talk about something connected deeply to our feelings, and those are our safety, emotional, and psychological needs. Remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs we've talked about several times on the show? Well, today we're going to focus on them. And we want to remember that they're called needs for a reason and not wants. We need them to feel safe, loved, empowered, sane, on purpose, and alive. We need to honor what we need, so we're not going against the self, because anytime we do that, we're in trouble. So in essence, we're validating what is true for us, what I call our truth, which is no one else's business, by the way. Our bodies tell us when we're tired, hungry, sore, or under the weather. Our trash can tells us it needs emptying when it starts to spill over. What's not so obvious to many of us, though, is when our emotional and psychological needs are not being met. They're rather invisible. And it's something we don't talk about, yet we need to. So what am I talking about? So here are a few of the very important needs, but this is by no means all of them. A big one is healthy mirroring. What I mean by that is someone in your life can hold up an objective mirror that is accurate and caring and not full of their own agenda, so you're not in the house of mirrors and you don't get a distorted view of yourself. The need for acceptance, just as we are, warts and all. The need for laughter, to be silly, to enjoy. People who grow up with a lot of trauma in their childhood or parentified have a hard time doing that. We need to belong somewhere. We need to belong to other people who are like-minded with a similar purpose. We need to feel safe. We need to feel safe physically, sexually, and emotionally. We need recognition for things we've done and maybe done well. We need to be proud of who we are, what we've accomplished, and overcome. We need to feel loved by at least a few people. We need caring from other people when we're hurting or when we're struggling. We need peace. We need to feel generally that things are right in our world. Not every day. Life happens. We need to feel cherished and we need to feel special to someone. We need to lean when we really need to, when we're learning, when we're most vulnerable, and eventually to feel strong enough so others see our strength and lean on us as well. We need to feel secure, to have some basic safety and trust, at least most days. We need room to grow, to keep improving, challenging ourselves. We need to be allowed to struggle in our growing process. We need understanding, not continual criticism, judgment, unearned guilt, or gaslighting. We need hope, because you know that quote, hope deferred makes the heart sick. We need to be heard, acknowledged, validated, not necessarily agreed with, but respected. We need relationships with others to feel connected and alive and to belong. We need to have choices and to be able to own our choices, not what other people want for us, what we want for us. We need to be believed in and respected. We need to know we make sense. This is so important. It really helps us own and trust our truth. We need to be creative, to have a sense of purpose and a meaning for our life, and to be able to use our gifts. And finally, we need faith in something. So I can assure you that these needs and many more are always present. They are there, sometimes way below the surface. We're going to get them met somehow, some way. You've heard me say that before. It's kind of binary and applies to all of us. They're driving our bus whether we are aware of it or not, and just by recognizing them and starting to get them met is crucial to the healing process of whatever, and you can fill in the blank here, anxiety, depression, anger issues, panic attacks, overeating, substance abuse, the list goes on. Now, one disclaimer here. We often need things that were never met or won't be simply because we cannot go back and redo our life. We can't bring people back to life. We can't change them. We can't change places or things. Grieving this is so important. And that's enough for a whole separate episode. In fact, check out earlier episodes about grieving childhood losses. That might be helpful. You also might not realize that subverting your needs can also be a trauma response. Disconnecting from your feelings and your body and the moment helped you survive. But the answer for us is to stay in today and validate what we need today, regardless of what has happened in the past. I think by having surrogate people placed in your life, or you seek them out, or both, can help you get needs met that you never experienced before. So what does it look like when we don't take care of our needs? Well, acting out our unmet needs instead of owning them is a form of manipulation, I think. I think it's putting your stuff on other people and not owning your shit. Just like your feelings. Here's a big one. Not setting boundaries is a huge part of taking care of our needs. Because you can't rest if we still have to watch the kids and don't ask our partner. We can't get a break if we don't say no to working after hours. Things like that. So how do you know you struggle with owning needs? Well, first, you probably don't express them directly. You might shut down, ignore them, and yourself. Eventually, you end up dealing with stress-related illness and other woes. You got lots of resentment later, guaranteed. Another way is you're always focused on what other people need. But not really, because it's really about how wonderful you look putting their needs first. You can't receive compliments. You might minimize, dismiss, blow them off. You're attracted to selfish or emotionally unavailable people because it works. I'm being sarcastic. It would be ultimately too terrifying, though, to be with someone who actually met your needs. Because then what? You would have to be ultra vulnerable and trust and feel okay about that. That's a big deal. Emotionally unavailable people are not going to call you out on that. They're not going to give it to you. They're certainly not going to challenge you. You might struggle to enjoy the moment, too focused on what's next, so focused on doing. Concentrating on doing, not being, not allowing or receiving. Not allowing or receiving help, rest, comfort, understanding, love, and protection, even when it's offered. You're often thinking about being disappointed. Maybe if you delay the idea of being gratified and deserving, you won't be let down. Sounds crazy, but it makes sense. You often struggle with extreme stress, irritability, anxiety, and/or depressive times. This might be how you act out what you need. You're just so stressed out and easily triggered. You're not meaning to lash out, but it's hard to talk to you sometimes. Maybe you feel guilty when you do something nice for yourself or say no to something. Boy, that's a big cue. That's code for, I'm not allowed to take care of me because that's selfish. It overwhelms you to think of focusing on just you. You struggle to have alone time, even though this is hard to admit. Like really alone, like not distracted by your phone or Netflix or something. So as you can see, there are ways to see if you struggle with a mindset that doesn't honor the fact that you deserve to have your needs met. But how does this happen? Well, here's where we start to disown, or some people say forget, our emotional or psychological needs. Well, since we learned all of this in our early years, we need to look then at our first classroom, our families. Because if our parents struggle to honor their needs, which was learned in their childhood, then they would have had a great difficulty teaching us to do so, since we can only give another what we have for ourselves. Of course, they probably let us know it was okay to have our basic needs met, and maybe we were loved, fed, and clothed. But what about our emotional and psychological needs? Maybe you received the message that your needs don't matter, or even if you express them, they won't be met. Like if you had narcissistic caregivers or a caregiver, other siblings maybe sucked all the energy the family had. You learned not to be the squeaky wheel. So in order to survive, you had to shut down your needs. It also was very dangerous to be vulnerable, just emotionally dangerous. It didn't have to be any physical violence in your home. Maybe it didn't go well when someone was mad or sad or had to cry or be weak. Maybe you were given the message that you're selfish and to think that these are wants, not needs. Like, what do you need cookies for? Dinner's almost ready. Or you don't need that. You have plenty of clothes. Oftentimes, the family might have been in so much stress and crisis that even if they wanted to meet your needs, they couldn't. Maybe you lost a parent at an early age and felt abandoned. Maybe there were other mental health issues going on for caregivers where they could not meet your needs. If there was any substance abuse, I know that didn't happen for you. There's no way that someone can be emotionally available and in active addiction at the same time, even if that's workaholism. So in order to survive, in order to maintain whatever parental approval and or surviving you could attain, you were going to do it. So be proud of those protective measures that you took, those defenses, okay? Don't shame yourself around them because they are there for a reason. Because kids aren't naturally like that. Kids are normally will ask exactly for what they need and want until they learn that that's not okay. Also, if your parents modeled the martyr behavior and not to ask for what they need or to act out instead, you were also picking up on those cues because they didn't normalize and make it okay for them to ask for what they need in healthy ways either. Maybe in your family, being selfless and giving was a good thing. And no one talked at the dinner table to mitigate that and say, well, wait a minute, don't do that to your own detriment. We can help the neighbors, but we're not going to go broke doing that kind of thing. So this plays out later in life, right? So, for example, when a person grows up without a parent or caregiver to protect and care for them in good ways, they might seek out romantic relationships in which their partner can fill this void. However, due to their past experiences of abandonment, even emotional abandonment, they may feel an intense fear of losing their partner and become overly controlling, clingy, and insecure in their relationship. On the other hand, some people who experienced abandonment in childhood may struggle to even form secure attachments with others. So they're going to have personality traits and behaviors that kind of push people away. Then they keep repeating the cycle of abandonment. All right. So unmet needs are a big deal, especially the need for belonging and emotional safety. Because without that, we don't have trust and we don't have connection. And those are foundational pieces for us to be anything else in our life. To be less anxious, to be creative, to be emotionally honest, to be vulnerable, to have courage to go after goals. You're not going to do that in an unsafe environment. No one will. That's why when I work with clients, I know that even if we do this work on needs while they're still in an unhealthy environment, it's not going to be until they get away from that environment and set some big boundaries for themselves that they're really going to be able to honor what they need. Okay, so from disowning to owning, how do we get needs met in healthy ways? Well, here's a list of things that you can start focusing on doing to ensure you're doing this in a better way. First, the obvious one, identify and validate. Take some moments to get quiet and ask yourself, what do I need? Is my body tired? Am I anxious? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I irritable? Why does that make sense? Grab some context. Like we've said before, take you out, put someone else in. What might they need? Go research it. Talk to others about it. Become familiar with what someone in your space would benefit from. Okay? You're going to have to do this a lot. That's a process. So, for example, after going strong for a couple of days, maybe your body aches and your head hurts. You need rest. You need a cognitive break. You need downtime. Maybe you need a walk or a massage. Number 2, work on ways to express your needs. To yourself first, okay? We have to validate them for ourselves first. Journaling can really help with this. Then telling them to save people who can actually hear you and validate them. Use I statements and say them affirmatively without minimizing or explaining away. You're going to have to work on that. Be firm yet kind. Make sure your words and your tone of voice match the need. For example, firmly state no like you mean it, or gently ask someone to pick you up at the airport. Own the need. Ask for what you need. And then people have a right to say yes or no, but at least we stepped up and we asked for what we needed. 3, when you're doing this, try to be as emotionally honest as you can be. This is so important. So you might have to take some time to keep drilling it down till you know exactly what's going on. Like when you're mad, do you know what you need? Remember, anger is the protector. It's a good signal something's not right. But then there's vulnerable stuff underneath. Like maybe I'm mad because the person didn't show up on time. Well, I feel mad, but I also feel upset and I feel sad that this is the 3rd time they've done that. And I feel sad I can't count on them. I'm disappointed. Maybe I'm afraid. I'm afraid for the future of this relationship. So dig down to what the vulnerable needs are, right? I need to be able to trust this person. I need them to be on time. 4, do the who owns what here. The need might be yours to get met, like take a nap, exercise, meditation. No one can do that for you. Or maybe it needs to be met by someone else. Maybe you need help. Maybe you need time alone, a promotion. Maybe you need to return an item that doesn't work. But the onus is always on you to ask for what you need. Others can't read your mind. They didn't take that class. So we don't want to punish them for not knowing. And I want to stop here for a second. One of the reasons why you wish people read your mind, that's a trauma response in a way because you're so afraid to ask for what you need because bad things could happen. You could even just get yelled at. So typically people who are conflict averse obviously don't want to ask for what they need because that could cause problems. It could cause conflict. You might have to negotiate needs with your partner, let's say, which is healthy, but you might be afraid of doing that. People who are in toxic relationships also have a hard time doing that because they've been manipulated out of what they need. They've been so gaslit, they don't even know anymore. It's so much easier if someone says, hey, do you need some help? Or, hey, Mary, it looks like you're tired. I got this. You go take a nap. That's wonderful if they can do that. And it makes it easier on me because I don't have to ask and put myself out there to be rejected, laughed at, abandoned, yelled at, whatever. But we can't rely on that. We have to own, at the end of the day, these are our needs, right? Whether that person offers or not. Conversely, it's nice to offer to other people in your life who you know are struggling with their self-esteem and struggling to work on this, because it does open the door for them. It normalizes it. It gives them the message, it's okay to need that. It's okay to need that. So take responsibility. At all times, know this is ultimately up to you to honor yourself. And believe me, others are going to thank you later because you'll be so much calmer and grounded and happier to be around. And guess what? People are going to feel safer around us emotionally. Your congruence, in other words, your insides matching your outsides, will be felt intuitively by other people, especially your kids. Another thing you need to do is get support. Starting to honor our needs can be very intimidating and overwhelming if our history has taught us to disown our needs. It is so important to have healthy, supportive people who can validate what you need early and often. This is way too difficult to do on your own and in a vacuum. I don't recommend it. Get a therapist, get a coach, and get some people around you who can support this for you. Typically, by the way, those are people who can ask you for what they need. In other words, it's okay for them. But I'll tell you what, People who have a hard time asking for what they need, oh boy, they're not the people right now to deal with. Or at least don't expect a real positive response. You're probably going to get some blowback from them, and that's okay. They can't do it for themselves. You're intimidating them because you're asking for what you need. Learn to detach in love. Realize there are people in your life who simply cannot give you what you need. Probably because they're not in a healthy enough space to do so. You just have to work towards acceptance, which is a lot of grief work, and realize you might have to find different folks to be a family for you. It's about making friends with reality here and taking responsibility. Go get needs met in healthy ways. I'm not saying step out of your marriage, because that's what makes people step out, I think. Get it met in healthy ways. Spend more time with friends. Get into some communities who can support this for you. Many, many repeated arguments can be traced back to an unmet need that will continue to go unmet. For example, if you're always frustrated, your friend blows off commitments to you, even after you've confronted her numerous times, it's about grieving to acceptance that, she probably lacks the internal discipline to be someone you can count on. Honor that you need to have trustworthy people in your life and detach from her with love. And finally, honor your fears. See, we need to understand that for us to begin honoring our needs, this can entail putting ourselves out there, being vulnerable, risking all that stuff we talked about. And this can be very, very difficult. Often just the idea of asking for what we need can feel overwhelming because we may not be accustomed to doing so. Our whole being may feel immobilized. If we had early traumatic events, this is especially so. You might freeze, and it's okay. Baby steps. Or maybe we had experiences where it didn't go well. We asked for something, we were let down. We were judged, we were dismissed. The other thing to realize is if we don't usually ask for what we need, we typically surround ourselves with people who, let's just say it, are willing to not have us do so. Again, that's why having healthy support is so imperative. If you're in a relationship with someone with narcissistic traits, you're going to have to subvert what you need because a lot of your needs are going to go unmet. Over the years doing support groups has really taught me just how amazing it is when the members start to validate each other, listen to each other, and honor what each other needs. It's as if they're given a green light for the changes to begin to happen for each of them. So taking responsibility means first noticing. First notice what makes sense. What do I need? If I'm exhausted, I need a break. If I'm overwhelmed, I need to put some boundaries down. If I need help, I need to ask for help. Then own it. Don't leak it out. Don't melt down. Don't lash out. Don't shut down. Take some time. Take a minute. Go in that bathroom like we talked about last week and figure it out. Finally, get it met. Get the need met. This means saying no to them, probably saying no to us. Saying, no, you can't do 2 more loads of laundry or hours of email. You're tapped and you need a break. Think about it for a moment. Aren't we nicer people after a weekend at the beach or some time off or change of scenery or, there's boundaries. We're not working. We're giving ourselves a break. We're giving ourselves balance. Okay. Measure that against 3 grueling days of sick kids and work and no sleep. So beginning to really listen to ourselves is so healing. And by nurturing ourselves in this way, by taking that nap, that vacation, that long drive, or whatever we feel we need, we're healing wounds from long ago, too. We're healing the idea, I think, that we didn't deserve to have these needs, much less have them met. We're healing the recent past, maybe even earlier today, when we didn't take care of ourselves, and it's okay. Every few minutes, we get a new chance. You're going to begin to notice that you're feeling better the more you practice this self-care, by the way. Staying in scenarios where you can't get needs met is crazy making and I think essentially toxic. But as you continue to grow, you're probably becoming so frustrated that you won't allow yourself to stay anyway, or at least not without boundaries, which is a good thing. Like, ever go to a nice hotel or other spot you felt cared for, nurtured, respected? Notice how wonderful that felt? And you didn't have to beg, cajole, or fear you wouldn't be honored. It just was. They just did it for you. I encourage my clients all the time to try to go spend time in places and with other people who really want to respect you. Because creating that contrast to maybe your own life at home or in that work environment can really be eye-opening and show you what needs to change in order for you to get needs met. So today we got into a big part of self-ownership, our basic needs, and then how if they go unmet, how we're going to struggle to be okay. We talked about our emotional and our psychological needs, identifying also where we may have started to disown them and where we learn to ignore them. Then we got into the steps to start taking to begin owning, validating, and getting them met in healthier ways. We talked about what happens when we don't and ways we can begin to take care of ourselves while honoring others in the process. And we realize this is a process. It's not just one event. It's going to take time. Time to realize, time to learn, time to grow, time to screw it up, learn some more, do better. Keep fine-tuning these behaviors and start where you are. In other words, for example, maybe you yell the boundary or the I need and anger first until you learn to do it more calmly and softer. Everything is on that continuum. If you start where you are, you will get to the other end. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you find some ways this week to get needs met in healthy ways. If you don't already get the newsletter, make sure you sign up at ownitpowercast.com. So, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.